Welcome, fellow stargazers. Congratulations, you've taken another step towards the realization. This is part 2 of our video series on the Advaita philosophy. In part 1, we talked about the basics of the philosophy in detail. If you haven't watched that part already, please make sure to watch it first before continuing this part. Regardless, I'll rapidly summarize the video right here. Basically, the Advaita philosophy says that the world that you see around you is only a false appearance of its true form. Advaita philosophy has 3 main components: Brahm, Jeev, and Jagat. Brahm is the ultimate truth of the universe, which is the supreme and only truly existing entity. Jeev refers to you and me, and really any living creature that walks this earth. Jeev is our impure form, while the pure form is Atma. What makes this Atma impure is the Maya part of us, which includes our senses. Jagat refers to the elusive appearance of Brahm, that only exists because we, the Jeev, are ignorant. We lack knowledge and are distracted by the Maya of the world and thus fail to see Brahm in its true form. If we were to gain knowledge, Jagat would be indifferent to Brahm. Finally, the Advaita philosophy also gives a relation between Jeev and Brahm. It says that the eternal Brahm and the fickle Jeev are in fact the same. Brahm is like an endless and timeless ocean, while all of us Jeev are its fragments, like drops of water. So ultimately, despite the superficial differences, all of us have a common origin, which is the Brahm. Quick recap. The true form of the universe is Brahm. We are the Jeev who interact with Brahm, but Brahm appears to us in form of Jagat because of the Maya that surrounds the Brahm. This was in essence the entire summary of the Advaita philosophy, which was given by Adi Shankaracharya. This was in the 8th century CE. Now later on, as the time progressed and other scholars read about this philosophy, they had their arguments against and in favor of the Advaita philosophy. This led to a series of modifications in the philosophy that led to the origin of a set of newer philosophies. We're going to talk about these modifications in this video. Starting with the first, Vishishtadvaita. This was the philosophy given by Sri Ramanujacharya in the 11th century. Ramanujacharya argued that if Brahm is such a pure, supreme entity, how did it ever fall for the trap of Maya in the first place? And what is Maya anyway? If Maya is not part of Brahm, but a separately existing entity, it just means there are more than one existing entities, which disqualifies the very basis of Advaita, that is non-duality. One thing to be clarified here is that Ramanujacharya was in fact a supporter of the Advaita philosophy. He just didn't like the idea of Maya being the reason why Brahm appears in form of Jagat. He then proposed his explanation of the philosophy. And to understand what he said, we need to understand the concept of gun and bhed. Any object has a specific set of qualities or gun, which is unique to that very object. These qualities are what create a difference or bhed between two objects. For example, here are two squares. They are similar in the sense they are both squares, but they are also significantly different. The qualities which create difference between these two objects are their sizes and colors. Similarly, any two objects are differentiated based on their specific set of qualities. Ramanujacharya explained that these bhed can be of 3 types: Vijatiya, Sajatiya, and Sagat. Vijatiya bhed refers to the difference found between two different organisms or objects. For example, a cat and a dog are vastly different. Sajatiya bhed refers to the differences found within the same species of organisms. For example, dogs have various breeds. Coming to the third, Sagat bhed. This is even more niche, as it refers to the differences found between different parts of the same organism. For example, your nose and ears are very different. Vishishtadvaita philosophy says that Brahm itself displays this third type of bhed, that is the Sagat bhed. Since Brahm is the only existing entity, Jeev and Jagat aren't anything different from Brahm. They are in fact just different parts of Brahm. And these parts, much like any organism, display the same organism type difference pattern that was explained earlier. Just like you have various organs which are vastly different from each other, but in the end, it's really just you. Similarly, Brahm also has different parts such as Jeev and Jagat, but in the end, it's all just Brahm, the only ultimate existing entity. With that, we conclude the Vishishtadvaita philosophy. Next up is the Dvaitadarshan philosophy. This philosophy was given by Sri Madhvacharya in the 13th century. Dvait translates to duality, which evidently foretells what this philosophy is all about. Madhvacharya completely disagreed with the ideas of Advaita and said that a Jeev can never be the same as Brahm. The creation can never be equal to the creator. Even if a being achieves moksha, which is freedom from the cycle of births and deaths, it would still be different from the supreme entity. Not just this, but Madhvacharya also mentioned some other differences between the three elements. He said that Jeev is different from Brahm. Jeev is also different from Jagat. Jagat is material, while Jeev is conscious. Even any two Jeev, that is two conscious, are different from each other. Jagat too is different from Brahm. Brahm or the Paramatma is independent and can make decisions on its own, while the Jeev or Atma is dependent on the Paramatma. In conclusion, this philosophy supports the idea of differences between the three elements that we've been talking of. Next in line is the Dvaitadvaita darshan. This branch of philosophy was given by Nimbarkacharya and it really gained popularity in the 13th century. He said that Dvait and Advait both exist simultaneously. He said how there is a duality when we say that a Jeev depends on Brahm. But if we were to draw a parallel, in a similar fashion, your hand also depends on your brain for its motion. That doesn't change the fact that the arm and the brain are part of the same body. Similarly, when there is a reflection of duality in the way a Jeev depends on Brahm, it is also in an ironic way a reflection of the non-duality that exists between the two. The example Nimbarkacharya used to explain this philosophy was that of a drop of water in an ocean. Every singular water droplet is an ecosystem of its own. But that doesn't change the fact that ultimately it's all just one big ocean. The existing of a separate droplet ecosystem doesn't deny the existence of a greater ocean ecosystem. And therefore, the existing of a Jeev separate from Brahm doesn't deny the ultimate unification of the two. Next up, we travel to the 15th century, in the time of Sri Vallabhacharya, who popularized his branch of this philosophy, the Shuddhadvaita darshan. The name directly translates to pure non-duality. Vallabhacharya removed the three-element concept of the original Advaita philosophy and replaced it with just one, that is Brahm. He said that everything is nothing but Brahm. Now this is gonna sound confusing, so try to understand. Take the example of a light ray to understand this. Light has a spectrum of colors that merge to form white light. But we can't just say any singular color is not the same as the white light itself, because ultimately, it's all the same. Another example that can be used is of a burning fire. We may see a fire burning in various forms, but ultimately, it's all fire. Vallabhacharya also made a remark on the Vishishtadvaita philosophy, which said that Jeev and Jagat are part of Brahm. He said that there is no need to say that they are part of Brahm, when it can directly be said that they are Brahm. Essentially, this philosophy looks at everything as Brahm. Quite a contrast compared to the Dvaita darshan. Next and finally, we go to the 16th century to study the mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gave the philosophy of Acintya Bhedabheda. His philosophy takes inspiration from both Vishishtadvaita and Dvaita darshan. The word Acintya translates to inconceivable, and Bhedabhed refers to the existence of both a difference and indifference. This philosophy says that Brahm is different from Jeev and Jagat and controls the functioning of the two. However, it is totally up to Brahm to either directly control the world or let it be functional on its own, much like the contemporary image of God. When Brahm directly controls the world, we observe Abhed or indifference. And when Brahm chooses to not control the world directly, we observe Bhed or difference. Take an example of a school to understand it. The principal doesn't have to be present in every single class at all times to maintain discipline. The teachers can do that just fine. Similarly, Brahm doesn't always have to control the world for it to remain functional. How or why does Brahm does it is not very simple to understand. Just like the philosophy says, it's inconceivable. Basically, this philosophy believes in an all-knowing supreme entity and we are dependent on it for our existence. These were the modifications that Advaita philosophy went through over the years, and each one of them has its believers. Regardless of which one you believe in, or not believe in any of them at all, the footnote of it all is the fact that Brahm certainly exists. For some, it can be in the literal sense, as they may believe in an all-knowing God. This gives them a purpose in life, to strive forward to become one with this Brahm. For others, Brahm can still exist metaphorically in the things that they cherish in their lives. Some subject of study, some art form, some person, some memory of a person, amongst other things. These are all things people can individually find their Brahm in, for they are what give these people a purpose in life. To me, Brahm seems so much more than just the literal sense of it, and our ancestors were anyway notorious for writing things in a symbolic fashion. Given how in literal sense, Brahm is this supreme tranquil ocean of energy, it might even be a symbolism for the peace and quiet that every living being desires. I feel like the extract of this video is that regardless of its originally intended meaning, the implications of Advaita are immense. All it takes is a mind willing to think. So keep thinking and keep discovering. After all, that's what philosophy is all about. And until next time, chase brilliance.